the end of the last video, we had a map that looked like this one. In today's video, we're going to be connecting the map to the actual game itself. So if you turn on your plane and your character and your wall, there should be, in this case, there should be a door on the left side and a door on the right side. And when we walk to these doors, we'll be able to walk through them and go into the other room, and it should move you on the map accordingly. If you guys are enjoying the series, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yeah. Okay, so what we need to do is go to the scene view, and you need to re-enable the 3 objects that we deleted. If you click on your plane, we're just going to make this way smaller. So instead of it being 40 by 40, we're just going to make it 10 by 10 so that it's actually like a normal size. If you go into the game mode, this is probably too small for a room maybe, but it doesn't matter. This is just for demonstration purposes, right? So we have this wall here, and the wall is also the wrong size. So right now it's 50 by 50 by 1. We're going to make this 10 by 10 and then by 2, make it a little bit thicker. Yeah. So then we want the y-axis on the position to be 5, so it's flush with the ground, right? So if it's 10 in scale, the origin is in the middle of the object, so 5 puts it on the ground. And then we want to stretch it out so it's 10 in the x-axis. Oh, sorry, this is a position. Change the position of x and z to 0 for right now. And we're just going to make the scale in the x-axis needs to be 100. So the reason the scale has to be 100 is because the plane is 10, and the plane is actually 10 times larger than the cube. So I'm using a plane and a cube, but the actual scale of the plane is already 10. So when you scale it, 1 is 10, 2 is 20, etc. right? So the cube, because this is a cube, it's not like another plane or anything like that, it has to be 100 to match it, right? So let's drag this to the edge of the game, and we'll just type 50 in the z-axis so it exactly lines up. If you press Control D on your keyboard, you can duplicate it, and you can drag this copy down to the bottom, and it should just be -50 in the z-axis. And then we'll press Control D again. We'll rotate this one 90 on the y-axis, and we can drag it up into the middle and move it over here. So it looks like -50x and 0 in the z-axis. And then again, press Control D, and then you could just drag it over here so that you have 4 walls for your character and you're in a room, right? All right, so now that we have a room on the left here, we're just gonna create some game objects to use, kind of like a folder structure. So we're gonna right click, and we're gonna create an empty game object, and we're going to call this level. And then inside of level, we're going to right click again, and we're going to create an empty game object called rooms. And then we're going to right click again and create another empty game object, and we're going to call this 6. So we're going to take these walls that we made, and we're going to move them into 6, and let's just make 6, make sure the scale of all 3 of these are 0. Okay, they should be by default. That's okay. So this is going to be room 6. We need room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. right? So room 0 actually is going to be the start room, so we need that as well. So let's finish making room 6 first and adding the doors to it. And then when we're done that, we're going to have to duplicate it a bunch of times to actually make the rooms. So the other thing that I want to do is if we right click, we can create another empty, and we'll call this main. And so we'll put the level below the main, and we're going to take the camera, the light, the volume, and the character, and we're going to put that into the main, and this plane can actually go into room 6. Okay, and then we're going to right click again, and we're going to create another object, and it's going to be called UI. And then for right now, we're just going to take the canvas, which has the map in it, and the event system, because the event system is used for like clicking buttons on the UI. And we're going to separate this into 3 separate objects that we can manage, because we don't want our hierarchy to be cluttered. And so we're just taking basic steps to declutter it. So inside of the level, the room 6, so if you go into your level dropdown, the room dropdown, and room 6, we need to right click and make an empty and call it walls. And we're just going to take the 4 walls that we've already made, and we're going to put them into the walls folder. And then we're going to right click again on 6, and we're going to create a a doors folder. And then inside of this doors folder, we need to create the 4 doors that could possibly be on the edges. Okay, so for right now, they're just going to be cubes, and we're going to move this to the left side of the room. Make sure that you're looking left and not like this. So if you look in the top right corner, Z should be forward. So Unity is like a Z forward game, so it's this way, right? So what we want to do is just make this in a door shape, right? So maybe 10 in the y-axis, or 9 because the wall is 10 in height, and then 2 in the x-axis, and then 5 in the z-axis is fine, right? So then we want to make this flush with the ground. Okay, so this is super important. All of these game objects, when you have a game object that's a parent of another game object, if you change anything in the position, rotation, or the transform of one of the parents, it applies to include all of the items that are inside of it. So for example, if we change the scale to 2, it will change the scale of everything inside of this to 2, right? And etc. If we like move this to the left or something, all of the objects inside of this will move, but you'll notice things that are not inside this won't move. So like, for example, my stick wizard is actually in this main folder. He's not attached to the level in any way. So if we move the level, it doesn't affect that. It's important that you have all of these parents set to 0 in everything, because then you can use the actual numbers to make sure that these exactly line up. So I took the door and I put it at 4.5 because it's 9 in size. It should be, the cube has the origin in the middle, so it's halfway above the ground. And then I have it at -48. This wall is at -50. That means it's like kind of like in the wall a little bit. We'll just actually make this a real number. So -48 on the dot. And yeah, so then this is flush with the wall, flush with the ground. It looks really good. Now we want to make this a black cube. So at the bottom of your scene here in the project view, we're going to go to materials and we're just going to right click and create a new material, and it's going to be called pure black. In the top of the material, there's a shader and it defaults to the lit shader, but we don't want that. We actually want this to be unlit. So choose the one that says universal render pipeline in the brackets, and then we want to change this to black. Now, the difference between unlit and lit is affected by lighting. We don't want this to be affected by lighting. We want this to be pure black, right? If you put lighting on, there'll be light on the blackness, but it's a door, so that doesn't make sense. There shouldn't be light on it. So then on the cube, we're just going to drag this pure black into the slot in the mesh renderer and materials here. Okay, so now we have a black door. And then at the top, we're going to rename this to left door. Okay, so really important, the name has to be correct because we're going to be using this. And it also needs to have a box collider that exactly goes around it. So when you add a cube to the game, it automatically attaches a box collider to it. Just click this little button, this edit bounding box, and just make sure that it's going around the edges of the actual thing. And then we want to duplicate this 4 times, right? So we're going to press Control D again and drag this over to the right side. And we're gonna do 48 actually. We're just gonna type it in because that's exactly what we did over here. And then we just wanna rename this to right door. And then again, we're gonna press Control D again, move it like to the middle-ish. We'll call this top door and we'll rotate it 90 on the Y-axis. We'll put it at 0 on the 0x, and then it can be 48 in the z-axis because our room is exactly square, so we want to make it like exactly in the same, all sides should be exactly the same when we're done, right? So then we're going to Control D the top door again, and we'll do -48 in the z-axis, and we'll call it bottom door. Okay, so the last thing we're going to add to this room before we actually go ahead and make the script that does this is we're going to add a number that's going to be on the floor. So this is room 6, right? So we're going to create a 3D object text mesh pro, and when you do this, it says to import this, just click import TMP essentials. You're going to need this for your project. And let's close out of this, and we're just going to rotate this so that we can actually see it. Rotation should be 90x probably. Cool. And we're just going to move this up, and we're going to change the text to be 6. And we're just going to actually move this away from like the starting position, and we'll put it like that, right? It doesn't really matter where it is as long as you can see it and it's clear. So like we can see that this says 6, right? The point is that we want to know what room we're going to be in, right? So like if we go into room 0 or 1 or 6 or whatever, we want to know the number of the room that we're in. This is only going to be temporary while we're fleshing this out, right? So we want to create 5 other rooms now. So we're going to actually disable room 6 so we can't see it anymore, and we're going to press Control D 4 times. Okay, so then we'll change this to 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and the reason we're doing this is because we only made 3 rooms. So we have the start room, the item room, the shop. Oh, sorry, we have 4. We have the secret room as well. Let's make a 4th room. So in each of these, we just want to go and find the text and just change it to be the same as the number. So this is the start room. So we're going to put 0. We're just clicking the text. It's not visible on the screen, but if you enable the room, you can see we've changed the text to 0. So we just want to go through all of these and change the text to match the room number. Okay, and I'm actually gonna add 4 more rooms because we want the normal rooms to be randoming between a pool of rooms so that there can be different rooms in your game, right? So let's press, so on room 6, we're gonna press Control D a couple times, and we're just gonna make room 7, a room 8, a room 9, and a room 10 for right now. And we're not gonna be putting anything special in them, but we do wanna make the number match. So like the text that's on the floor needs to match the room. All right, perfect. So now we need a script. So let's re-enable the start room, which is room 0, right? So we need a script when we crash into one of these doors, we want to go through the door. So we want to attach this script to our main character because he's the one that has the character controller. So if we go into our scripts folder at the bottom and we click player, we're going to right click and we're going to click create C# script, and we're going to call this change rooms. And then on our player, we're going to drag this into the bottom. Okay, and then after you drag it into the bottom, we're just going to open it up by double clicking it. All right, so we're going to take away the start and the update method. And what we want to look for is on controller collider hit. So this method gets triggered when your character controller collider runs into something, right? If the hit dot collider dot transform dot name, is there just hit dot name? Hang on, let me just make sure there's not like an easier version of this. Name game object dot name. Yeah, that's better. Is equal to left door. So if we hit the left door, or if we hit any of the doors, we want to move in that direction, right? So we need to have where the player is in the map saved somewhere. So let me just make sure that I didn't declare that already. So we did that already right here, the current room. We're gonna X this out. So cut this out of the level and put it into the player. Because the player is in the current room, the level isn't in the current room. So we're going to be using the player class to manage where he is in the level, because it makes more sense because the player is there, right? So he starts at 0, so at the very start of the game, we're going to start him off in room 0. So player dot current room is equal to the start room. Wait, let's go back to the generate level script, and in the start method here, so in the generate level script, after we've generated this room, we want to set that the player dot current room is the start room. Okay, so if we hit the left door, we need to find out where we are. So where are we, right? So where are we? So we are vector2 location is the player dot current room location, right? And then we need to find out where are we going. So we're going to the left. So the new location is going to be the location minus sorry, let's just do plus new vector2, and it's going to be -1 and 0. Okay, so we're moving 1 to the left, so that this location is now 1 to the left. So we need to enable the room that is 1 to the left. So we need to find out what room is 1 to the left. So we need to go to our list of rooms and find out if if level dot room list dot rooms dot exists x equal this thing, x dot location is equal to location. So we're finding what room is to the left of this, right, in our list of rooms, and then we need to set the current room to that room. So does this just returns a bool? So room r gets level dot first rooms dot first x, let's just use y, whatever, y dot location is equal to location. Can we reuse x here? I don't know if we can. Let me just see if we can reuse x. Yeah, we can. So this checks if it exists, because it has to exist in order for you to set it, right? If it doesn't exist, then this door shouldn't be there, right? So if the door's not there, then you shouldn't have to, like, this won't ever happen, right? We need to find out. Yeah, so we found out the room that we're going to, right? So this is the room, and then we need to enable that room in the hierarchy, right? So we need to find out what the room number is. So we need to pass in this rooms folder, public transform rooms, and then we need to do rooms.find, and it's going to be r.number dot set active game object dot set active true. So we're turning on the room based on the room number, right? So whichever room we found, we're going to turn it on based on what the number is, because it's an integer. So we just need to do .toString. So if we walk into room 6, which right now we will walk into room 6 because that's the only possibility, then it will turn on that room. And so I'll show you what that looks like, right? So we start in room 0. If we walk through the left door right now, it will turn on room 6, and it will just say 6 on the ground instead of 0. So let's turn off room 6, and we need to turn off the room that we're coming from before we do that. So what we want to do is get the room that we're in before we change the room that we're in, right? So we just need to do rooms.find. We need to do the same thing, except for instead of r.room number, we need to do player.current.room number. So this will turn off the room that we're in. This will turn on the new room, and then we need to move ourselves in front of the door. So then we need to find the left door that, the door that we're going to be, so it would be the right door in this case. So if we go through the left door, we want to be in front of the right door in the other room, right? We need to find out where that is. So instead of just setting it to active, we need to get the game object. New room is like this, and then we want to set new room active. Okay, at the end of this we need to put .game object. So we're finding the room, like the room number, we're setting it active, and then we need to move our character in front of the door. So inside of this room there should be a right door. So new room dot find, new room dot transform dot find, and then we're looking for the right door. So we need to find doors first, and then from there we can call transform dot find right door. Okay, and then we can set the player's position. So I think we have player dot, the location of the player should be stored in here somewhere. Okay, let me just see if we have the transform of the player saved in here. Okay, so we need the transform of the player saved so that we can actually move the player around. So we're just gonna put this right below state up here. So we'll do public static transform player. Let's just type in position. Actually, let's just type in transform. That's fine. So, because then we know what it is. And then in the initialize player script, we need to actually get that information. So public transform player transform. And then we can set player dot transform is equal to player transform. And then in our actual game, we need to drag in our transform into the initialize player script like that. Okay, so if we go back to the change room script, we can set that player.transform.position is equal to this position plus new vector 3. And if it's on the right, we want to make it move to the left. So that's going to be the x-axis, right? So if we're looking at this, this is the door that we're going to be moving to, but we want him to start, like, we don't want him to start in the door because he'll hit it right away and it'll keep triggering like an endless loop. So we want him to be like negative 20 away from that. So remember that the room is 100 in size, so negative 20 will put him like here or something like that, right? And we'll have to play around with this number. Let's create a float for this. room spawn offset is equal to 20. So we'll just do negative room spawn offset. That way we can change all of them at the same time. We're just setting up the left door first, and then we have to do all the other doors, right? So when we hit the left door, we find out where we are. We find out where we're going, which is one over from where we are. We check if that exists, which it should. Then we get the room that is. Then we find the transform, which is like the actual game object for that, and we enable it so you can actually see the new room. Actually, sorry, we're disabling the current room. So let's do false here instead. So this line, disable the room that you're in. Then we find the new room and activate it. And then we move the player to the door area where he would be coming through. Yeah, so if we go through this left door, we want him to appear on the right side of the room. Okay, so we're just gonna drag the rooms transform into this rooms transform from the change room script. So at the top here, we've declared this transform for the rooms, and we actually have to drag that in there, and then we're gonna run this. So if this is working correctly, if we walk to the left door, providing the left door appears, it should teleport us. Now we're not gonna be moving on the map yet, so because we haven't coded that, but you can see that when we hit this door here on the left, it actually moves us to the left, providing another door exists. And I think if we go far enough, it probably will eventually stop working. Oh no, we're not even moving ourselves on the map or like in any way, shape, or form. So that will never like be finished or whatever. So now we need to change our location on the map. So this is going to be slightly confusing. So I'm going to try to go through this the best that I can. So we need a method for this. So we'll just call void change room icon. And it's going to take in two rooms. Okay. So there's the current room and then there's the new room. Okay, so the current room dot room image is going to get the previous image. So right now we don't have a previous image, so we need a private sprite previous. Let me just spell it the same. Previous image. Right. And then after this, we're going to set previous image is equal to the new room dot room image. And then the new room image is going to get the level dot current room icon. So then at the bottom here, we can set the, oh, what's that doing there? We can call this method, right? So change room icon. And we'll pass in the player dot current room. And then we're going to pass in R, which is the new room. And then we're going to set the player dot current room is equal to R. So I'm going to open Paint so I could try to explain this. It's a very confusing topic, kind of, right? This is the start room, and then there's a room here that we're going to, right? So when we go to this room, we want this room icon to turn into the green dot that indicates where you are in the level, like the current room icon, right? So what we're going to do is before we change it to that icon, we're going to save this picture into this previous image sprite. So I'll just put PI here, previous image, right? So if this is a treasure room or a shop or an item room or some other icon, we need to know what icon we're saving, right? Because we're overwriting it with the default image of like where we are on the map. And we need to be able to go back to this when we're done. So we save that, the current room image gets the previous image. So we're setting this one back to the previous image. So that's the first thing we're doing. So this is going into here. And then the previous image is going to be this getting saved. And then the new room image, which is this image, is going to be the current room icon. So this is going to get set to here. So then when we go to another room over here, it's the same kind of deal where the current room dot room image is going to get, so this room will get replaced with the previous image. So like it will set the image back. Then the previous image will be whatever is in here and will get stored into PI. And then the new image, which is here, will get the current room image. I hope this makes sense. It's kind of a confusing topic, but this should work. And remember, we're only going to the left right now, so we're gonna have to be repeating this for all the directions, but this should work. Now, previous image needs to get set as whatever we want the start room icon to be. That's what it needs to start as, right? So we'll set this to level dot default room icon. Now remember, default room icon is not the same as the previous room. So if we go into the map images, we have an empty room here. This is the default room icon here, empty room, and the location is where we are in the level. So if we run this again and we go left a room, it should actually move us on the map, hopefully. Let's see. So we just need to make the map so that there's a left door. You could just press tab on your keyboard if you've been following this project. I'm going to be uploading it today. At the end, when I upload this video, this project is going to be attached, and I'll probably mention that at the very beginning of the video as well. So it's not doing anything. Okay, so we have to change a lot of things to make this work. So we need to go into the level and change the room's image to be a sprite instead of room image. The reason being is that the image that we need to store in the room is the component of the image that's in the map, right? So in the map, you've got like all these little tiles, right? And they are images. They're like, it's a component that's attached to the game object that's actually physically in the game. Changing the sprite will not actually update it on the map. So by changing this to image, this should break all of your other scripts. So what we need to do now is we'll go back into our other game, and we just need to, let's have two things here. So we're gonna have a public sprite, which is gonna be the room sprite, and then we're gonna have the room image. So there's gonna be two things. So we'll pass in the room sprite here, which is fine. And then in all of these things where we've done this, we'll just change it to room sprite instead. So start room, for example, room sprite can be the level dot current room icon, and then all of these ones where we have errors, we're just going to set this to be the room sprite instead. This is an easy way to fix it. So we just want to click this error button at the bottom, because we can easily find out where all of these errors are just by clicking on them in this list. You could also use find and replace in your entire project to replace all of these at once. Which will be quicker than probably doing this. It's Control H, I think. I think we might be good here. Yeah, okay, wait, let's click two errors. Let's comment out this method for a sec, and let's comment out this bottom portion that we just added today. And we're just gonna get it to work with images instead of sprites before we carry on. So what we need to do in the generate level near the top, where we actually draw the room on the map, after we set the sprite to be that, we need to type in r.room image is equal to room image. This will add a reference to this. This is it. So we're creating a map tile, and we're creating an image, and we're putting this image as a component onto the map tile, and we're adding the component to the room image itself. This is not the same as a sprite. A sprite is just like, it's not the same thing at all, right? So this is an actual component image, whereas this is just the picture. So just changing the picture won't do anything. You actually have to do it on the actual component itself. So that's why it's not working. So this should at least draw what we had. Let's see if it still works or if we get an error now. Yeah, so we could at least, so it's drawing what we had. And then what we want to do is we want to go back into the change room script, and we want to turn this back on. So by the way, to instantly comment things out, you can press Control K and then Control C without letting go of the control button. And then to uncomment it, you can type in Control K, Control U to uncomment. So that's how I'm uncommenting so fast. So Control K, U without letting go of the control button. So we want the current room.sprite. We don't want that. We want to be changing the images around, right? So we're getting the current room image dot sprite and setting it to the previous image. So we're taking the room image, which is like the physical thing that's actually there. and setting the sprite of that to be the previous image. And then the previous image can get the room image dot sprite. We just have to add dot sprite to this, right? And then the new room image can be the dot sprite, can be the level room icon. So now we should be able to change rooms probably. Let's just see. I'm going to be posting this project at the end of this, so you can download it and it should be already working when you download it. So don't be too discouraged if you're trying to follow along and you just got completely lost when I did all that. But yeah, okay, so this looks like it worked. So you'll notice that we teleported all the way to the very end here, which is not actually what we wanted. So let's just run this one more time. I think we need to add a delay before we can go through the room again. It has to finish because it's just going to teleport us right to the end, right? Okay, that worked. So that only put us over 1. That put us over 1. But that one double jumped. So when it got to the end, it fucked up. So let's just go back into this. Okay, so now we need to set a delay. So when we go to switch between the rooms, there has to be a delay, like a minimum wait time before we can actually go through another door. So you can't just go through a door and then immediately go through another door forever, right? Because when we hit the door, it looks like it teleported us 3 times over or double jumped or whatever, right? So we don't want that. We only wanted to go through 1 door at a time and it can't be double jumping. So what we want to do is we want to set a timer for that. So we're going to call a public static float room change time, and we're going to set it to 1 second. Is, yeah, you shouldn't be changing rooms more than once per second. Hopefully not. Maybe you want that in your game. I don't think that's a great idea. So here, when we hit this object, we're going to check if we're cooling down first. Now, this is the change room script. So when we, the very first thing that we do, because we don't want to put this inside of this method specifically, because then we'll have to copy it for each of the doors, right? So if we're on cooldown, so we need a Boolean value for that. So bool change room cooldown is equal to false. So if change room cooldown, we're gonna just return, right? And let me just do this. Else, no, not else. Yeah, we want an else statement here. So we want to put else. We want to change room cooldown is equal to true, and then we need a method to count down. So void ends change room cooldown, and then we can just set this to false again. And what we can do is we can invoke this method. So use name of, and then end change room cooldown, and then we're going to invoke it after the level dot change room time or room change time, right? So what this will do is if it's already on cooldown, then we're going to return, so it won't do anything that's in this script. Otherwise, we're going to set this cooldown to true, which means you can't hit any more objects until it's done. And then we're going to invoke this method after this amount of time. So after 1 second, we're going to it will set this back to false after 1 second. And then you'll be able to do it again. So this adds a 1 second timer before you can actually go through another room. And this will prevent you from hopping over rooms, I guess. Okay, so the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our player is not hitting the floor. Okay, so we have a character controller and we don't want it to be checking if it's hitting the floor. So we need to, if you look on the right here, our plane is on a layer. We're gonna add a layer and we're gonna call this floor. And anything that's on the floor layer, we don't want our player to be, we want it to interact with it like gravity wise. We don't want him to fall through the floor. So we don't want to disable the physics layer. We don't want him to be checking every single frame, like that will count as a controller collider hit because it's touching the floor all the time. So if that, or if the hit dot layer, hit dot transform dot layer, hit dot game object dot layer is equal to layer mass dot get name to layer floor. So if it's on cooldown, or if the layer that the object that we hit is on the floor layer, we're going to return. So this will prevent us, because we don't want this checking every single second. Like, this will immediately put this on cooldown and we won't be able to go through the door. So let's go back into the game and see if we're able to go left now and not have it skip any rooms. This is perfect, perfect example. Okay, so it changed our room, but it didn't move us to the right. We should have been put at the right of the room. Let's just see. So that time it worked, and that time it didn't, and that time it didn't either. So it's not moving us to the right side of the room. And right now we're in room 3, which is the item room. So that's really good. So it's actually going based off. So you can see that we're in the item room here, and it enabled the game object 3. So if you put your item room drawings in here, that's what would appear, right? So we're going to be dealing with that pretty soon. We're going to make it random between the numbers, but we've got to enable all 4 ways. We can only go left so far. And also it's drawing all the doors. So that's another problem, because this door shouldn't be here. Okay, and I just remembered the trauma that I had with this previously in my other project that I already made. But yeah, I guess when you have a character controller attached to your player and you try to set the location of the player using the transform to a different location, the character controller does not give a shit that you want to do that. It will just move, like, because it updates every frame, so it will continue moving exactly where you are. You can't just teleport using that. So what you have to do is you have to actually disable the character controller, move the character, and then re-enable the character controller. So to do this, we need to put the character controller into the player class. So I've done that here. I think I might have did this in the first videos, but for some reason it's not set up like that in my game. So then in the initialized player, we have to get a reference to the character controller, and we can just call it player controller, and then player.controller equals player controller. And then, so before we actually move the character, what we need to do is player.controller.enabled is false. And then when we're done moving, we can set it back to enabled, and it will carry on wherever it's, like, wherever it is. But if you don't disable it before you teleport, because it updates every frame, right? So we'll just keep you wherever you are. So we need to put that into our character. So on the right here, we just need to drag the character controller into the player controller slot, and then we'll hit play here, and we're just going to check. This will probably fix it, but because I think I remember having this problem in my other project. So let's see. Okay, we're just going to restart the project. It appeared to work, but it could just be coincidence. Let me just run it one more time. All right, so now we can walk through the left door. This is very exciting times. So the next thing that we need to do is check what doors should actually appear. So for each of the doors that is in the list, if there's not an actual room there, we need to not have it draw the door, so we can disable the door. So we want to do that after we go through the room. So we change the room icon, we set the current room, and then we can use the current room to enable the doors. So we're going to make another method up here called void enable doors, and this one takes in a room, so we'll just put room R here, and then here we can put enable doors and pass an R. So the first thing we want to do is get the doors and disable all of them. So it's the same thing as here. So no, this gets the position, but we want to actually find the transform of all the doors. So rooms.find, yeah, like this. So instead of setting this active, we actually need to get the rooms that are inside of it. So we'll just type in transform t is equal to rooms.find, and then we actually need to get the transform. This should be transformed by default, I think. That's what find returns. And transform needs to be capitalized. Okay, so now we need to just go through the list of, so inside of the transform, if you look on the left here, there's a transform called doors. So this is the number 6, right? Or whatever room number it is. And it should be r.room number, not because you want to be able to pass whatever room in here that you want to. Although the current room, I guess, would be the room that you're in. So whatever. But then I don't know if you even really need to pass anything to it. Inside of this, we want to do t.find and then, okay, so transform doors gets t.find doors. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than doors dot count. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we want. And it should be less than equal to. So it will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should just be less than because there's only 3 total because it's 0 base. So all collections are 0 base. The left door would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So we want to set all of the doors inactive. So what we want to do is doors dot get child I dot set active game object set active false. Okay, so we just want to make sure this is working before we proceed. So we're going to run the project. So when we go through one of the doors, all of the doors should be deactivated immediately. And let's see, hang on. Yeah, so you can see that there's no doors. So we are in room 6 still, but it disabled all the doors. And then we need to check what doors actually exist and then enable them afterwards. So we want to check what doors should be there. So we need to do left, up, down, right. So to check to the left, we can do vector to new position is r dot location plus vector to. Yeah, so we're checking one to the left of the. Oh, I gotta put my cat out. One then. One. Okay, so we're setting this new position to be 1 to the left, and then we're going to check if this new position exists. So if player dot, not player, level dot rooms dot exists x. This is called a lambda, by the way. It's like it's a link, I guess. Link. You can use this to look up things inside of a list. It's very, very powerful. So then location is equal to new position. So we're checking if this room exists to the left of it. And if it does exist, then we want to enable the room inside of the doors transform. So doors dot find left door set dot game object, because we have to set the game object of it. Can it stop pressing enter? Oh my god. Set active. And we'll set this to true. Okay, so then we want to do the same thing for all of the doors, right? So let's do that. And if you want to reuse a variable, like a new position here, I don't want to have to do like a new name for this every time. You can put brackets around it. Like you don't need an if statement. You can, this is called a scope. So you can actually put brackets just around this with nothing else. And then your variables will stay local inside of this. I should have did this before I copied it, or done this, sorry, before I copied it. But your variables will stay local inside of it. And then you don't have to worry about redeclaring the same variable. You can just have it named the same thing because it only exists inside of this scope. So this will work. So then we need to change all of these to make more sense. So this should be top door. This should be bottom door. And this should be right door. And then we need to check these as well. So up is actually going to be 1. Down is going to be 0, -1. And then right is going to be 1 and 0. So then we also want to run enabled doors at the very beginning. So in the start right away, we want to run enabled doors, and we're just going to pass in the player.current room. Now, I think that change rooms is not in the thing. So hopefully this will work. We'll see. Let's just run this and see if we can see all the doors or not. Okay, so the current room, it's because change rooms is running before the other scripts are running, so this actually has to run at the end. So we need to go into the build order and set it to run as the last thing. So if we go into the project settings, build order, I don't remember which tab is the build order. I'm just going to go through all of them. Oh, here it is. Script execution order, sorry. And then we're just going to add change rooms as the very last thing. So you can change the build order. So we have initialize player happening at -1. This is before all the other scripts, but we want change rooms to happen last. So the stuff that runs in the start method will happen after all the other scripts are already done generating the level and all that kind of stuff. Let's click apply on this. And then we want to run this again, and it should work this time. All right, so you can see we only have one door and it's at the top. And when we go through it, oh, we can't go top wise. Okay. Because we only enable this on one way, and we want to make sure it's 100% working before we copy it into the other ones. So let's do this. Room 6, looking good. Look, there's no bottom door, but the doors that make sense are there. This is exactly what we're looking for. And then you can go all the way into room 3. Perfect. So now we want to enable all the other ones, right? So all the other directions, we want to make them options as well. So right now we only have the left door, right? So, oh crap. We just want to copy this entire thing and just do right door. So the only difference is the location will be 1 instead of 0. And then I need to read through it and make sure it still makes sense. Hang on. So we don't need this anymore. And we move to the left door. And the position is going to be the positive room offset. Oops. So where we move in the room is going to be, it's going to be the left door to the right. Yeah, hopefully we did this right. This video is already getting really long. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to be posting this entire project. You can download the entire thing in the description of the video. So if you get stuck or it's not working for you, which I don't expect that it will for a lot of people because it's really complicated, right? It's like a lot of information. And so we want to find the bottom door here. And then instead of this, it should be room spawn offset could be from the bottom. And then, did I change anything else? Like, I almost should have these all be the same method. Like, there should be a method and we just pass in the bottom door number, the string and the direction or something. Whatever. We already did it this way. It's too late now. But this should have been all probably one method, so. So the bottom door should give us the top door, and we did 0 and 1 here for top door, so bottom door should be 0 and -1. All right, and before we hit play again, in the generate level, we just want to random the room number. So what we want to do is random room number. Instead of it just returning 6, it should return a random range between 6 and because the rooms count should be 10. Because there's no, that's not right. Hang on, that's wrong. It needs to get, so game transform game object dot find rooms dot child transform dot child count. So there's only 4 rooms, right? There's 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, that's 5 rooms. There's only 5 rooms. So there's these rooms that we added for, like, okay, outside of these special rooms, there's only 5 rooms, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? And it's going to random between those, but there might be more than one of each room because it's a random number each time. So this will make it so that when you go through the doors, the number that's on the ground will be a random number. Also, we should be able to go through all the doors now. So let's see. All right, so we're starting in room 0. There's a door on the right, door on the left. It's looking really good. yeah, we can go to the right. This is room 7. So the benefit of this, right, is that if this is room 7, we could put certain monsters or objects or obstacles or whatever we want to in this room, and then we can go through the rooms and it'll always be a random room instead of it just being like the same room every time. So going down seemed to work. Let's go back. It didn't work. It pushed us up. So it looks like it maybe put us in the wrong spot. Let's go and look at the code for changing the room again. This is not the change room script. So when we go through the bottom door, it should be negative room offset because we're moving it down away from the top. The reason that we're floating in the air is because it spawned us outside of the level because it added 20 to the door position, right? So the door position is here and it put us here. So we're floating outside and then we walked over the wall back into the level. And we're not going to cover the character controller problems today. So the character controller will walk up things if the slope offset is like a certain amount. We're not going to go through that today. You can look that up online if you want to or whatever. But yeah, so this is room 7. This is room 8. It looks like we're flying again. We are definitely flying again. Okay, and the very last thing, if you run into a problem where your character gets stuck on the doors, make sure that you've set all the planes to be on the floor thing. I copied them all and I didn't actually put them onto the floor layer, and I was having problems where like I would get to the door and my character would be stuck there for a second. But this looks like it's working. Okay, and the reason we're getting stuck on the thing is because we need 3 values. So this is a vector 3. So when we're moving ourselves up it or left or right, it's working because the very first value is X, but if you don't put a third value, this assumes that it's Y. So you just need to put a comma 0 or a 0 comma in front of that, and then at the very bottom one as well, you need another 0 comma here. So we want to actually put this in the other ones as well. So the right door, we can put comma 0 again, and then in the left door as well, there should be a comma 0. And we can get rid of this debug log. We don't need it anymore. So if we save this, it should be working. Let's see if we're able to walk around. So here we are. This is the start room. We go through this. It goes into room 9. This is room 9 again. It's random, right? So it's randoming a number based on like what rooms are available. So 6 to 10 in this case, because these other ones are secret room, item room, shop, boss room, and the start room, right? So if we go in here, it should be room 3. And so by doing this, you could put whatever you want to in these rooms and they'll be there when you go through it, right? So like you can, and you're reusing like, so if like, let's say we only have 5 rooms in this case, right? There's way more tiles than that, but we're reusing the numbers. So like we're reusing the rooms or whatever, right? So this is really, really good. I'm going to be posting this entire project in the description of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.